the people of Delhi are consuming milk that are laced with carcinogens. There is a recent case where the Delhi High Court asked to test milk samples in Delhi, and it was found that more than half the samples were either substandard or they were laced with aflatoxins, which are carcinogens, and we are talking about the national capital, and we are happily giving it to our children, for God's sake. अगर मुझे इस चेयर में 2 घंटे से ज़्यादा बैठना पड़े, मैं कितनी अनकंफर्टेबल हो जाऊंगी. अगर मुझे साल भर इसी कुर्सी पे बिठा दें तो मैं शायद पागल हो जाऊं. वो हालत हो जाती है इन जानवरों की जो इनकी हाउसिंग इतनी ख़राब होती है. मरना उसके लिए एक it's a blessing. Yeah. India's hallmark is cattle on the road, right? Why should there be cattle on the road? Every state has dairy cooperatives. They show huge amounts of profits every year. But how many gaushalas do they run? How many retirement homes for animals do they run? Zero. Yeah. Zero.
So why isn't the government capable of suing the dairy industry for discarding cows onto the street?
Every time I go to Ghazipur, something in me dies.
Yeah.
I also feel sorry for the people working there. उन्होंने शायद कभी कोई decent जिंदगी देखी ही नहीं है.
Terms like cage-free and free-range, are they real or is it just marketing gimmicks? India में इतने सारे जानवरों के rape cases होते क्यों हैं? Why do you think that animal welfare is so low on the agenda of the political landscape?
Because animals don't vote.
Hi guys, welcome to Kindness with Amy. Today I'm joined by Gauri Maulekhi, who's the trustee for People for Animals, focusing on policy reform. She also works closely with the government on the enforcement of laws around the environment and animals. Welcome, Gauri.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you for having me.
It's so amazing to have you with me today. I've been following so much of the amazing work that you do. Gauri, I would love it if you can tell a little bit about yourself to my listeners.
So I've been in the animal welfare sector for the past 30 years. I started soon after I was out of class 12.
Yeah.
And I started running shelters, helping out, volunteering in many places. First in Lucknow, then in Noida, in Delhi, and then in Dehradun, and finally graduated to a more campaign mode.
Yeah.
And started working with policies. Now I also do a lot of capacity building. We got a large team now. We've been able to put the movement together and make it a little more focused. And that's where we're headed, to basically make India grow into a mature animal welfare understanding state.
Wow. And what was one defining moment in your life that made you want to focus on animal welfare?
There are 2 defining moments.
Okay.
One was there was a pet in my house that I never really cared much about.
Never cared much about?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
In fact, I was jealous of it. I used to think my mother cares about the dog more
Fair.
than she cares about me.
Fair.
But her passing made me question everything, because she passed at the hands of a quack, and that made me feel, and I was the one taking her there, thinking that he's a doctor. It made me feel and understand how completely helpless animals are. And if an animal under my care, and I'm calling myself an educated person, like at least somebody getting an education, I was in class 12, could suffer that much, then what about the ones that are on the streets? Then what about the ones that are with cruel people? So that made me question everything. And they emerged in my life as somebody deserving of my time. So that was one thing that led me towards rescue and relief. And then later in life, the second defining moment was when I was visiting a temple in Almora with my family. And I saw a small little kid, a baby goat, all decked up and being taken for sacrifice. I just could not believe that people could actually believe in such thing in this day and age. And I also realized that by rescuing this one animal, this problem, this malaise will not go away.
Correct.
And hence a systemic change is required.
Yeah.
So that pushed me into campaigns, into making larger changes, into working with governments, with state government, central government, in bringing about changes that are, high impact and probably are not revolving around rescue and relief of one animal or the other, but have a more larger effect.
Wow. So आप जो हैं, आप मीट, डेयरी, अंडे नहीं खाती हैं, तो आप एक्सप्लेन कर सकती हैं कि आपने इस सब को खाना क्यों बंद किया?
जैसा कि मैंने पहले बताया, मैं बचपन में जानवरों के प्रति कोई ख़ास लगाव नहीं रखती थी, कभी सोचा भी नहीं था उनके बारे में बहुत कुछ, उनको खाती भी थी और लैक्टोज इंटॉलरेंट थी बहुत ज़्यादा, इसलिए दूध पनीर नहीं कंज्यूम करती थी, बट मांस बहुत ज़्यादा। जब फाइनली रेस्क्यू का काम शुरू किया और लगा कि जानवरों को बचाना चाहिए क्योंकि वो बहुत हेल्पलेस होते हैं और शायद सबसे हेल्पलेस होते हैं, किसी भी सेक्टर ऑफ सोसाइटी से ज़्यादा हेल्पलेस जानवर होते हैं, महिलाओं से भी ज़्यादा, बच्चों से भी ज़्यादा, सड़क पे रहने वाले होमलेस लोगों से भी ज़्यादा, क्योंकि ये बोल भी नहीं सकते। जब इनको बचाना शुरू किया, कुत्ते ही दिखे। कुत्तों को जब बचाते बचाते एक दिन मुझे किसी ने बोला कि एक जानवर को बचाते हो, दूसरे को खाते हो। तो वो हिपोक्रेसी के साथ तो मैं नहीं जिंदा रह सकती थी कि अब हम कुछ अच्छा कर रहे हैं तो हम अपने आप में दो क्यों स्टैंडर्ड्स रखें।
Was that like a light bulb moment for you जब किसी ने ये कहा था आपसे, या कुछ gradually कुछ चीज़ें हुई थी?
It was like somebody slapped me on my face.
Right.
It felt like I'm here believing that I'm making my life purposeful by doing something good, something that is larger than myself. But actually I'm being a hypocrite. I'm saving a dog, but I'm eating a hen. And what difference is there between a dog, a hen, a tiger, a lizard, or a cow? It's all the same. It's life.
Yeah.
And I cannot try to, reconcile these things without really giving up use of animals by any means whatsoever. And then that was it. In fact, it was at that time a little, one can say one had to just go cold turkey because there weren't any alternatives available.
Yeah.
Way back when I became vegan.
How long have you been vegan?
I don't remember, forever it seems. 2013, 14.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
That's when I completely gave up everything, and there was only soy milk available in the market.
Yeah.
Godrej ka ek Sofit aata tha. There weren't many flavors or many varieties available, and probably there was tofu, but that's it.
Wow.
No plant-based meats like people now enjoy.
Yeah.
No plant-based curds and ghee and cheese and other amazing stuff that now is available weren't available then. But then, the great thing about Indian cuisine is that it's naturally default vegan.
Yeah.
In most of our ways. Our samosas are vegan, our chole bhature are vegan, our dal chawal, sabzi, roti, all your dosa, idli, everything is vegan anyway.
Exactly.
You just need to make little tweaks here and there. And there you are.
Exactly. That's what I find amazing is like you take a palak paneer, usme tofu dal do, tofu palak ban gaya.
Yeah.
Aap ek butter chicken ko le lo. Instead of putting that, you can put plant-based chicken, ya aap chhap dal sakte ho, ya seitan dal sakte ho. Itne options hai that you still enjoy all the same stuff just by making small adjustments.
Absolutely.
Well, that's an amazing journey.
Absolutely. And it's healthier because I used to be pretty, a lot heavier back in the day. But vegan lifestyle has made me completely, I'd say it's redefined my health. I rarely, if ever, fall sick. I'm probably the healthiest person in my family. And till date, I'm almost 50. I don't take any medicines per se. I'm perfectly healthy.
That's amazing.
And I have more stamina than anybody.
Yeah.
No shortage of protein or B12 if you're just mindful of what you're eating.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, when I speak to any doctor, they all explain to me that as long as a person is getting enough calories in their day,
Yeah.
by default, they will naturally meet all of their, when it comes to protein and all these key nutrients, they'll naturally meet all their requirements anyway. It's very easy to fulfill. The only question mark then comes in with B12, but B12 is not a meat eater or vegan problem. It's a modern day problem. Everyone is lacking B12 and everyone needs to supplement it. So, तो हमने सुना था कि इंडिया में इतने सारे जानवरों के रेप्स होते हैं. The magnitude is so much that actually the legalities around it being illegal were removed. So why is it that this has even happened? So technically, what that means is technically if someone goes and rapes an animal right now, they will not face any legal ramifications in the Indian system. But ये हो कैसे सकता है?
It is sick that
is
we
very
don't
sick.
take animal rape seriously,
Yeah.
which is why women in India
Yeah.
would be even more unsafe if we
Yeah.
keep ignoring it. 377, Section 377 was removed. I have a belief that it was an oversight. That, once the same-gender sex criminalization was removed, the Supreme Court was very clear that bestiality would still remain a criminal offense. But when the entire thing was adopted into BNS, it is my belief that this was an oversight and they should not have, they did not mean to remove bestiality as a criminal offense specifically. And I'm very certain that when the amendment comes, the first amendment to BNS, they would bring it back. While there is no specific section for rape, there are sections for cruelty or for mutilating an animal or for causing harm to an animal or rendering it useless, as the law says. So there is section 325 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita that basically applies if an animal is raped. But since in criminal jurisdiction, you need strong evidence, and in cases where allegation of rape has been made, there has to be quick reporting. Then on the part of the investigation officer, a rape kit has to be quickly arranged. Samples have to be taken, sent to the forensic laboratory. Charge sheets have to be drawn up. Cases have to be produced before magistrates. That process does not happen, because it's a bit of a taboo to even report such cases. I would say almost every dairy has cattle being raped in our country, and that is a shocking reality that we turn our faces from.
इंडिया में इतने सारे जानवरों के रेप केसेस होते क्यों हैं?
कुछ ये एक मेंटल विकृति है जो दिमाग से लोग अपना वायलेंस जो है वो ट्राई करते हैं औरतों के ऊपर निकालने के लिए, बच्चों के ऊपर निकालने के लिए. कभी उनको कोई जानवर मिलता है तो वो एक बहुत सॉफ्ट टारगेट होता है. बंधा हुआ है एक खूंटे से, 1.5 फुट की रस्सी से, कुछ नहीं कर सकता. लोगों का माइंडसेट कुछ क्रिमिनल होता है, वायलेंट होता है, या वो कुछ बस एक सॉफ्ट टारगेट देख के वायलेंस ट्राई करते हैं. और अगर हम इसको होने देते हैं तो फिर वो अपनी पुशिंग द बाउंड्रीज, यू जस्ट चेक, यू कीप टेस्टिंग योर बाउंड्रीज. क्या मैं ये कर सकता हूँ और मैं बच सकता हूँ? क्या मैं इसके आगे किसी बच्ची को भी हाथ लगा सकता हूँ? क्या मैं किसी औरत को भी हाथ लगा सकता हूँ? This is just a beginning. Now, if there is no consequence, which in real terms there isn't, technically, legally, such cases can still be reported under 325 BNS or under Section 11(1)(L) of Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act. They can be reported and they are punishable. But how many are reported? I mean, hardly any. I think 0.0001% of the cases, and I'm just throwing out a figure, are reported. And that too are not taken to the level of a charge sheet because evidence is not collected on time. The animal is not subject to vetro-legal examination on time. And people just get emboldened. Because that's the criminal mindset, right? You start with little steps. And if you are not caught, then you take bigger steps. Like this child, I'll give you an example and digress a little. This child who turned 18 in Texas and took a gun to, shoot down 19 children in a school just to test his boundaries. Just a few months before this incident, he was cutting open kittens on Instagram. He tried that. People thought, this is kittens. You can replace them with more kittens. How does it bother anybody? But if he had been checked back then, he would not have gunned down 19 children later. But we let that go, so worse things happened. So similarly, when it comes to raping, rape has its taboo. Even talking about it is sort of considered bad. Reporting it, at least for a lady to go to a police station and reporting rape of an animal, would probably not be considered very dignified. That's how it is in society. Not that it's desirable or that's how it should be. Or the police will not take it seriously, or they would probably laugh it off, because that's how we as a society we're conditioned, and it's sick.
Yeah. I've seen on my explore page on Instagram, I've seen so much animal rapes in India. In fact, I've seen it very commonly amongst dairy farms, 2 cows. There was a recent one that I saw where it was a guy raping a cow in a dairy environment in Chandigarh somewhere. The guy is filming it, laughing, being like, go harder, and they're making a big joke out of it and publicly putting it on Instagram. And it just really makes me question the mental stability of these people, I feel like it's one step away from raping a woman. It's one step away.
Yes, such people are a burden to society. There are peer-reviewed researches published in journals, reputed journals, to establish that a person with such a mindset cannot be a civilized citizen who can be responsible for, upholding the law or respecting fellow citizens. These people are showing their... look at Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, all these serial killers. They all started their criminal careers by being mean to animals in their neighborhoods. Yeah, we just ignored, or as a society, we ignored their criminal antecedents to animals, and which is why we see in Western countries, they take animal cruelty more seriously, because they have conducted these researches in prisons on hardened criminals, on criminals who are convicted of heinous offences, and figured that more often than not, before trying their hand at killing or raping or brutalizing other humans, they have tried their hands at animals. In India, we haven't done enough of that research.
Yeah.
So at this time, we are engaging with the Bureau of Police Research and Development, with the National Crime Record Bureau, to bring animal crime into the purview when they do their annual crime analysis of the entire country at the central government level. Then animal crime should also be analyzed. Like FBI now tracks all kinds of animal crime offenders to keep an eye on them, because these are the potential people who will turn out to be serial killers, or they will basically commit heinous offenses on humans later on.
Yeah.
So they remain on the radar of FBI. But in India, we are yet to graduate to that level. Several countries have taken a step ahead in that direction.
So Gauri, why do you think that animal welfare is so low on the agenda of the political landscape?
Because animals don't vote. Because people who care for animals are too few. Because people who care for animals and speak up for them are even fewer. And most policies that are intended for welfare of animals are inconvenient to a lot of humans. It's convenient to ignore the welfare of a cow if you just need to make production go up and have the GDP rise because you've got a huge amount of meat export and milk export and egg production and etc. So that's or leather production. So these are convenient things for the government to overlook because exploitation of animals keeps a lot of people happy, a lot of industries happy. For instance, if consumers were to pay the correct price of milk, if a dairy was to be run complying by all the laws of the country, and if laws were being implemented correctly, we would all be paying at least 500 rupees per litre of milk. But that's not so, and the government finds it convenient to keep having it sold for 50 rupees, 60 rupees, and all the corners, which are less prioritized are cut, and animal welfare is the first one, because no cow or buffalo is going to go write a report to the police station that I'm permanently tethered or I have been raped today, or no buffalo is going to be able to complain that hormones are being injected into it, or those are the kinds of situations that are easy to overlook. How many of us, like even the ones who care, really report that there is a chicken coca in my neighborhood, or I don't want it there, and there's one animal being slaughtered in front of the other animal, and that it's not fair and that's not how the law permits it to happen? How many of us take the trouble to write to the government that this is what we want in your manifesto next time around when you come, and this is why I'm going to vote for you or not? We get the government that we deserve.
Yeah.
As a country, we have prioritized different things, and animal welfare, while traditionally was so important for us because we were integrated with nature, with the environment so well. Traditionally, culturally, we've industrial animal agriculture and a huge population, and the burden of feeding such a huge population has moved us away from that sensitivity, which is sort of sad, and that's what's reflective in our governments as well.
And anytime we talk about welfare for animals or anything to do with animal welfare, people will straight away say that, oh, what about humans? Do you not care about humans? We should be concerned about children, about women. Why are you so worried about animals? And I find that weird because it's almost like you're saying we only have limited compassion for like two things. It's like, no, we can have compassion for everything. Why are we not looking at things holistically as one big thing? Because all these isms are connected. Racism, speciesism, sexism, they're all part of a larger picture. And that's what I think is missing from the larger context of society, is we don't look at things holistically in the same way that we should look at our health holistically. Rather than going to a doctor, getting antibiotics, putting a band-aid on top, we should be looking at our entire body. What are we thinking? What are we doing? What are we ingesting? What are we physically doing, right? So yeah, I just think that it starts perhaps from more education for people to have more critical thinking, perhaps from a young age. I would say that's probably the biggest thing that's missing.
That's right. While some attempts in this direction are being made, the One Health approach, for instance, is one. I'd say it hasn't trickled down into our education system so much, and it does not reflect in all the policies that the government has. Probably we'll refine it along the way, and probably by the end of the century, we'll get somewhere at the pace at which we are going. But I do encounter whataboutery a lot, and I see that as an excuse sometimes. I mean, when it comes to humans, then if you say, let me worry about women, then one can say, oh, what about children then? And then if you work for children, then somebody can say, what about old people?
Yeah, exactly.
Geriatrics.
You don't have to cherry pick like one,
correct,
this. Yeah.
So compassion is an outlook, and that outlook cannot be subject to who you're looking at. It has to be universal. And just like one wouldn't be mean to a woman or a child or a man or or a senior citizen, the same way one shouldn't be mean to a tree or an animal or a bird or a reptile or anything. So it's just how you live your life. You can either choose to live your life gently, or you can selectively inflict violence and live a life of hypocrisy.
Yeah, absolutely. बहुत लोगों को लगता है कि एग्स वेजिटेरियन है. उनके जो जिम ट्रेनर्स हैं वो उनसे कहते हैं कि अंडे खाओ, आपके मसल्स हो जाएंगे. लेकिन आपके हिसाब से एग्स वेजिटेरियन है या नहीं?
एग्स क्या हैं? हमारे जो महिलाएं हैं उनको महीने में एक बार पीरियड्स होते हैं.
करेक्ट.
वो इसलिए होते हैं क्योंकि हमारे बॉडी के अंदर भी एक अंडा होता है, और जब वो बच्चे में परिवर्तित नहीं होता तो जो हमारे यूट्रस की लाइनिंग है वो फट जाती है. वही है अंडा जो मुर्गी के बॉडी से निकलता है.
Wait. You are saying it's literally a period?
Yes.
Of another animal.
Egg is hen period. That is what it is. Yes. And doesn't it smell like that as well?
Yeah, it does.
So that's basically hen period, which people happily consume. It is loaded with cholesterol. It is laced with salmonella. It has pesticide residues on it because it's sort of stored and transported in dirty ways. Sometimes even washed with chemicals before it's packaged and put in stores. It is sometimes expired because the normal shelf life of an egg is about a week to 10 days. Probably 15 days if the climate is all right. But it's sold way beyond its expiry date, and people happily consume it. And it's just a gimmick. It's a misnomer that eggs are loaded with protein. One can obtain protein in much more quantities from many other vegetarian sources than to stuff themselves with hen periods. Because and that too, what we have done is, in order to get more eggs, now I'm going to tell you a little about the egg industry. In order to get more eggs from a bird, because this bird naturally, the red jungle fowl, which is the mother of all hens, red jungle fowl used to lay about 40 eggs in a year during its season, and have chicks come out of it and live merrily in natural life in the forest. One day, humankind decided to domesticate this bird, and then we decided to trait select it, to keep only the birds that are laying more eggs and culling the ones that are laying less eggs. We did that over decades and centuries, and now we have a bird that is constantly laying eggs around the year. An egg a day. It's like a woman having her period lifelong, like forever having a period.
So the chickens are only laying one egg every day because humans have literally selectively bred them to do this. This is not natural to them.
Absolutely not. So a red jungle fowl, like I said, the mother of all hens, when the chick hatches, then it takes about 6 months for it to grow into an adult, or to gain about 1 kg of weight, and lays about 40 eggs in a year, starting from a 2-year period, etc. But we trait selected them in 2 ways. One, to lay an egg a day, that was one strain, and another strain of broilers, the kind of birds that put on huge amounts of weight very, very quickly. Abnormally, they put on this kind of weight. And, a non-target trait is that they lost their color. So they become white. Our egg-laying hens as well as our broilers are now white because they've been trait selected for one particular trait, but more non-target traits have set in, such as cannibalism and a lot of diseases, because their immune systems are non-existent. Because of such heavy selective breeding, they have lost their ability to fight with diseases. Hence, we have to give them, antibiotics prophylactically to keep them alive.
Wow.
So the egg that we get is basically inducing a lot of AMR in our diets. It's a result of a really, really bad life that we have subjected 40 crore hens to at any given time in just our country in India.
And I wish more people actually went and visited these egg farms. I've been in Thane and around Mumbai. I've been to a lot of the egg farms, big industrial ones. And it was just beyond any words. The smell of ammonia when I walked in, that was most overwhelming. There was one farm that I went into, I think it was about 14,000 chickens एक area में थे. और जब मैं अंदर गई, साइड में there was a big pile of chickens to the left, a big pile of them, जिंदा थे आधे. मैंने पूछा कि ये क्या हो रहा है, मतलब ये पाइल में क्यों है? And they said to me that ये वाले सब बीमार हैं, तो हर रोज़ हम आते हैं, जो भी बीमार लगते हैं उनको निकाल के हम we put them in a pile. And I was like, तो फिर पाइल के साथ what do you do? And they said they take them, they bury them alive. And then they just do this every day. And they were happily telling me because मैं तो अंग्रेज़ की तरह एक्ट कर रही थी कि मैं बाहर से आई हूँ यहाँ पे इनका पूरा ये लैंड खरीदने के लिए, तो वो बहुत खुश हो गए. तो इसलिए हमें सब दिखा दिया आराम से. But it's shocking. And these people also, the weird thing is, these people seemed so nice. And that's what I find like this weird thing, is that it's such a disconnect that we have. We might be really nice people, but we have a genuine disconnect, maybe because we don't understand. Perhaps our empathy isn't there, or perhaps we're so desensitized. So we might be highly empathetic people, but we're so desensitized from something with perhaps a lack of education and so many things that you don't consider that as being an animal, like your dog that you might have at home. You don't see that in the animal. It's bizarre.
So when, a child, any child, his instinct is to be kind to or to be nice to a dog or a cow or a child is not naturally cruel. So our instinct, our innate sense is to be nice to animals. But as we grow, society conditions us to eat animals.
Yeah.
And or to be cruel to them in one way or another, or to ignore cruelty happening at an industrial scale to them. And therefore, in order to carry on with our lifestyles, the lifestyles that parents induce or the lifestyles that society induces upon us, we have to let one of the philosophies give way. We can either be compassionate, which is in our DNA, or just adjust to a lifestyle where it's convenient to be cruel. So most people sort of just let the compassion go and they stitch a story together in their heads that animals don't feel pain.
Yeah.
And they convince themselves that this is how it should be, because that is what makes them feel less guilty.
Yeah, or that idea
pain.
That they might think that this is a necessary evil. I think that is something a lot of people think, we need to have eggs, we need to have meat. So unfortunately, whilst I love the animals, unfortunately this is something that it's the natural order of life, Or
just asinine excuses like if we did not eat chicken, there would be chicken invasion of the entire planet.
I don't even know what to say to
they
that.
are made for us to eat. God has given us the animals to eat. I mean, those are, I would say, completely bizarre things that I have seen people believing, not just saying, but believing. And to an extent, when I was a meat eater, I used to believe some of it myself, so I totally relate with it. But you just need to shatter that falsehood that you have created to make yourself feel comfortable, because what you're doing to the animal is against your grain.
Yeah.
You are made to be compassionate. That's how kids are if they are left to themselves or to their intrinsic behavior. So I do agree with that. But a little more about the hens that that you said you visited also, in a battery cage farm, in an egg farm, every single bird gets less space than an A4 size paper sheet to live its entire life. For its entire life, it can never stand up straight. It can never spread its wings. It can never turn around into, in the cage without touching other hens or the walls of this barren wire mesh cage.
And most eggs come from these battery cages?
Absolutely. 90% of the country's eggs come from battery cage hens which are kept in battery cages. These are like jails where they're just standing on wire mesh. They're claws which are actually meant for perching, because we forget that they're birds.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be perching on something. They're not allowed that liberty. When they lay an egg, when a bird lays an egg, it's a very private function. Like for any female, whether it's a mammal or a bird, she feels vulnerable when she's in her period or when she's laying an egg. That's something that is very private to a bird. It's naturally supposed to be like that, and hence birds like to nest when they're laying an egg. They want to do it in a private space, which is why they need nest boxes. 40 crore hens in our country are kept in battery cages. They have no access to nest boxes. Researchers have shown that a hen that has been kept hungry for prolonged periods and is given the choice to either go towards food easily or to break a barrier, a heavy barrier, to access a nest box to lay an egg, she would forego food and struggle to get to a nest box. That's how important it is for the hen. But we deny that opportunity to her. We deny them the opportunity to dust bathe. That's very, very intrinsic to a bird. We deny them the opportunity to forage, to brood on the egg, which is again something very natural that every mother would do, right? There's just no opportunity to this bird to express her natural behavior. We just keep her in a completely straight-jacketed production system where all we want is to torture it till it goes completely... And you know what? We have kept roosters and hens as little pets in our office, in our homes. So we have seen firsthand that these very hens that are exploited in the egg industry are actually individuals. They have personalities, they have mood swings, they can care, they can show affection, they can come cuddle, they purr like cats.
But kitna mindlessly, it's like the fact that dogs हमारे pets हैं, तो हमें मालूम है कि कितना मतलब emotion होता है उनमें. They're like our children. They are literally like our children. But because हमारे लिए normal नहीं है कि chickens pets हों, तो हमें मालूम नहीं है कि chickens भी individuals होते हैं हमारे कुत्तों की तरह. You've been blessed to have chickens as pets. I've grown up with chickens as pets, so I've been very blessed to have that one-on-one connection with birds. And I have also seen firsthand that they, oh my God, so smart as well. Like I trained my chicken to like open the door and she would come running when I would call her name, just like a dog, But जब हम eggs के बारे में बात करते हैं and we say, it's so cruel, 90% plus come from battery cages, people will then say, but what about cage-free? What about free range? Can you tell me, terms like cage-free and free range, are they real or is it just marketing gimmicks?
So what does cage-free mean? It means that the hens are not kept in battery cages. There would still be an enclosure. They would still have, in free range, they would have indoor and outdoor access. But in just a cage-free environment, they would not have outdoor access, but they would have perches, they would have dust bathing litter, so they can actually forage and walk around, and they would probably have perches to sit on. They would have access to nest boxes. So in a cage-free environment, the bird gets a lot of natural behavior, gets the opportunity to express her natural behavior. But in India, we see that cage-free is considered synonymous with backyard poultry, which does not, measure up in scale to be commercially viable. So hence, which contributes only to 10% of egg production in the country. Commercial large-scale cage-free farming is absolutely new to India. In fact, we are promoting and we have established in Tamil Nadu India's first commercial model cage-free farm for 10,000 birds, which is environmentally controlled and fully automatic, a technology that we've borrowed, from Southeast Asian countries, from Indonesia. And now it's going to be inaugurated soon, and we hope to train more farmers. We're working with the Central Avian Research Institute to train more farmers in commercial cage-free egg production. Once this is standardized, there would probably be a lot of meaning to it. Currently, there is certification available from Humane Farm Animal Welfare, but Indian indigenous domestic certification also does not exist. So if you are buying cage-free eggs in the market, you will have to do your homework to ensure that that egg is actually cage-free. Just like corporates, when a lot of corporates, about more than 2,500 companies worldwide, have committed to go cage-free by the end of 2025. Many of these companies are operating and buying eggs in India also. And at this time, we are helping them find cage-free farmers so that they can fulfill their commitments. But there aren't enough cage-free farmers in India who can fulfill these large demands of, large food chain suppliers and corporate companies that are running hotel chains, etc. So we are working with the various stakeholders, whether it is the government, state government, or financial institutions, and cage-free producers, the cage-free cooperative society, the association, to sort of make sure that there is transparency, and when people are opting for cage-free, they're actually getting egg from a bird that has not been kept in a straitjacket. Very soon, India is going to adopt a certification system, and then for a consumer, it'll be much more easier to choose for, pay maybe a rupee or 2 rupees higher, but choose a less cruel egg. I would not say cage-free is cruelty-free, because at the end of its production cycle, the hen still gets slaughtered.
I was just about to ask that. Like, do the chicks still get killed, and does the chicken still get killed at the end?
So while cage-free is less cruel, I wouldn't consume it, because it is not cruelty-free. It does reduce the number of hours of suffering of tens of crores of birds. So it is worth it for people who must consume to at least consume cage-free, and just completely shun battery cages out of their lives. But the best case scenario would certainly be
to not have
plant-based.
So it's interesting you say this, because I meet with a lot of welfarists and a lot of abolitionists, and obviously it's like this. But I think it's the two working hand in hand.
Yes.
Because whilst the system is effed up and animals are suffering every day, if I just imagine if I was in that system, and I know the system is not ending anytime soon. Most people are not vegan and don't give a shit about animals. That's just the reality of the world. I know that there are a lot of vegans living in echo chambers that think the world will go vegan by 2026. That ain't happening. Most people don't care. So these two things have to work hand in hand. Abolitionists working to change people's mindsets. Consumer demand needs to go down for animal products. Companies need to transition away from animal products and be doing plant-based. These things are there, which are happening, need to happen more. But then concurrently, I feel like whilst these solutions are not eradicating the animals from the whole thing, at least, as you said, it's reducing the suffering. The suffering is still there. They're still being killed. The chicks are still being killed. They're still being exploited for their bodies. But this is also then happening to try and lessen this ultimately. So I feel like it is a very hard conversation to even have, but both things have to be happening at the same time.
That's right. So while we can make the option or choose the path of veganism for ourselves, and convince people, or at least make people aware that this is a gentler way to live. But when it comes to at least minimum legal standards, we can impose those with the help of state governments and make lives of animals much better. So how we measure the value in work is to see whether it's reducing the number of hours of suffering of the largest number of animals. So therefore, probably the end of life suffering is 2 days, 3 days probably, including transport, say 5 days. That would be the number of days that the animal would suffer towards just the slaughter bit. But if it's been housed badly for 1.5 years, which a battery cage, an egg-laying hen is, then relieving it from that pain is much more important than just relieving it from the last bit of pain. For instance, a cow that is tethered, or a buffalo that is tethered in a dairy for 5 years, probably the day of its transport to a slaughterhouse and eventual slaughter is a relief to it, because that years of being tethered to a pole, that वो जो 1.5 फुट की चेन से वो गाय बंधी रहती है, वहीं पे वो गोबर करती है, वहीं पे खाना खाती है, वहीं पे उसका बच्चा पैदा होता है, वहीं पे उसको ऑक्सीटोसिन लगता है, वहीं पे वो दूसरी भैंसों से रगड़ रगड़ के उसके बॉडी में छाले पड़ जाते हैं, वहीं पे उसको डेयरी वाला दारू पी के डंडे से मारता है, वहीं उसकी टांग टूटती है, वहीं पे कोई क्वैक आके उसको ठीक करता है। उसके साथ जो भी होता है वो 5 साल में, ज़बरदस्ती उसका दूध निकाल के छीना जाता है, ज़बरदस्ती उसके बच्चों को उससे 1 मिनट भी उसका दूध नहीं पिलाने दिया जाता, उनको भूखे उसके सामने मार दिया जाता है। जो भी होता है उसके साथ उस 5 साल में, वो उसकी मौत से ज़्यादा बुरा होता है। तो मरना उसके लिए एक it's a blessing. So हाउसिंग इज समथिंग दैट इज सो इम्पैक्टफुल, जो एक पिग के साथ होता है। अगर हम एक फीमेल पिग का देखें तो उसको आर्टिफिशियली इतनी गंदी तरह इंसेमिनेट करते हैं, उसके बच्चों को उसके बाद पहले तो उसको एक जेस्टेशन क्रेट में रख देते हैं जहाँ पे वो पलट भी नहीं सकती, वो सिर्फ खड़ी हो सकती है और बैठ सकती है। और वो पिग्स कुत्तों से भी ज़्यादा इंटेलिजेंट होते हैं, वो इतने इंटेलिजेंट होते हैं, वो काउंट कर सकते हैं, वो कम्युनिकेट कर सकते हैं, वो इतनी बातें कर सकते हैं अगर आप उनको मौका दें। हम नहीं देते। वो इतने बोर हो जाते हैं, वो फीमेल जो उस एक जेस्टेशन क्रेट में खड़ी हुई है, वो बाहर बाइटिंग करती है, वो जो क्रेट के बार्स हैं उसको चबाने लगती है, अपने दांत तोड़ लेती है, क्योंकि हम भी वही करेंगे। अगर मुझे इस चेयर में 2 घंटे से ज़्यादा बैठना पड़े, मैं कितनी अनकंफर्टेबल हो जाऊंगी। अगर मुझे साल भर इसी कुर्सी पे बिठा दें तो मैं शायद पागल हो जाऊं। वो हालत हो जाती है इन जानवरों की, जो इनकी हाउसिंग इतनी ख़राब होती है। ये उसके बाद उसको बच्चे उसी में पैदा कराते हैं, उसके बच्चे बेचारे बस एक तरफ से उसका टीथ्स में दूध पीते रहते हैं, कभी वो क्रश होके मर जाते हैं। और फिर ये कहते पिग्स में तो मटर्नल इंस्टिंक्ट नहीं होती। आप उसको मटर्नल इंस्टिंक्ट दिखाने का मौका तो दो। वो तो पिग्स नेस्ट करते हैं। रिसर्च, इनफैक्ट मैंने एक इतना सुंदर वीडियो देखा, एक पिग जिसको जेनरेशन से जेस्टेशन क्रेट्स में रखा गया था, उसकी माँ, उसकी नानी की माँ, सबको जेस्टेशन क्रेट्स में हमेशा रखा गया, फैरोइंग क्रेट्स में रखा गया, और कभी भी उनको नेस्टिंग अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं दिया। इस पिग को जब उसके बच्चे होने वाले थे तो उसको हे दिया, बहुत सारा भूसा दिया और कुछ बोरी के टुकड़े दिए, और पूरे प्रोसेस को वीडियो रिकॉर्ड किया कि देखें क्या ये नेस्टिंग इसके डीएनए में है, क्या इसकी इंस्टिंक्ट में है, या शायद इसने तो अपनी माँ से कभी सीखा नहीं, तो इसको तो कभी देखा नहीं इसने, तो शायद ये नहीं कर पाएगी। द वीडियो इज सो ब्यूटिफुल। दिस पिग, ये इसने जैसे जैसे इसका डिलीवरी का समय नज़दीक आया, इसने उस हे को नेस्ट के रूप में बनाना शुरू किया। इसने कोर्स चीज़ों को, खुरदुरी चीज़ों को नीचे, सॉफ्ट चीज़ों को उसके ऊपर किया, और सबसे ऊपर उसने कपड़े रखे, वो जो बोरी के टुकड़े थे। और उसके ऊपर बैठ के उसने बच्चे पैदा किए, और उसके बाद उन बच्चों को इतने प्यार से उसने पाला पोसा, बिकॉज उसके अंदर वो मटर्नल इंस्टिंक्ट आई, क्योंकि उसको वो मौका दिया गया मटर्नल इंस्टिंक्ट दिखाने का। फैरोइंग क्रेट्स में तो हम इतना अननेचुरल एनवायरनमेंट रखते हैं कि पिगलेट मोर्टेलिटी होती ही होती है। उसके बाद जो बच्चे पैदा होते हैं हम उनके दांत उखाड़ देते हैं, ये कह के कि नीडल टीथ हैं। उनको ट्रिम कर देना एक बात है, हम तो उखाड़ ही देते हैं, उनकी पूंछ काट देते हैं, क्योंकि वो एक दूसरे की पूंछ काटते हैं। क्यों काटते हैं? क्योंकि उनके पास कोई एनरिचमेंट नहीं है, उनके पास खेलने को कुछ नहीं है। वो बहुत बहुत चतुर और बहुत उत्सुक किस्म के जानवर हैं। वो कुछ भी चबाएंगे जो मिलेगा। तो हम उनकी पूंछ काट देते हैं। उसके बाद हम उनमें लेमनेस आ जाती है, क्योंकि हम उनको फर्श ढंग का नहीं देते। हम उनको होटल्स का सड़ा हुआ प्यूट्रिफाइड गंदा खाना दे देते हैं जिसमें फंगस लगी हुई हो। बिल्कुल इलीगल है ये करना, मगर हम उनको वही ज़मीन पे पटक देते हैं, वहीं पे वो बेचारे अपनी पॉटी करते हैं, वहीं पे वो खाना खाते हैं। हम क्या जिंदगी दे रहे हैं इनको? And that breaks my heart more than anything.
Yeah. I was reading that India is the second largest exporter of beef and leather globally. और ये मेरे समझ में नहीं आता है, क्योंकि किसी से भी पूछो सब कहते हैं गाय को वर्शिप करते हैं, ब्ला ब्ला ब्ला। बट फ्रॉम व्हाट आई अंडरस्टैंड, जो डेयरी काउज होते हैं, मिलियंस ऑफ देम, काउज, बफलोज, वो सब इसी ट्रेड में चले जाते हैं, बीफ ट्रेड में, लेदर ट्रेड में। तो अगर आप एक दूध का ग्लास पी रहे हैं, देन इनडायरेक्टली आपने बीफ का इंडस्ट्री और लेदर का इंडस्ट्री को सपोर्ट किया है। तो आप बता सकती हैं कि हम क्या कर सकते हैं इसको रोकने के लिए?
हम अपनी आंखें खोल सकते हैं और हम अपने आप को झूठ बताना कम कर सकते हैं। हम एक ऐसा देश हैं, हम एक कंट्री ऑफ कॉन्ट्रडिक्शंस हैं। हम जिसकी पूजा करते हैं, हम उसको सोचते हैं कि इसकी मूर्ति के ऊपर दूध चढ़ा देने से, और वो दूध जो असल में किसी गाय को अपने शरीर में मिला था अपने बच्चे को पिलाने के लिए, जिसके बच्चे को भूखा मार दिया गया और उसका दूध उससे छीन लिया गया, वो हम ले जाके उस गाय की मूर्ति के ऊपर चढ़ा देते हैं और सोचते हैं कि अब भगवान हमारा बहुत भला करेगा। दिस इज कहीं ना कहीं हम अपने आप को झूठ बताते हैं, हम अपने आप से झूठ बोलते हैं, हम अपने बच्चों से झूठ बोलते हैं। हम एक विंक विंक नज नज ऐसी सोसाइटी बन गए हैं कि हम झूठों की सोसाइटी बन गए हैं। हमारा कल्चर ऐसा नहीं था, हमारा कल्चर बहुत ग्लोरियस था, हमारी ट्रेडिशंस बहुत ऊंची थी। हम शेयर करते थे अपनी स्पेस अपने जानवरों के साथ। हम जंगल में जानवरों को अकेला छोड़ देते थे। हम ट्रेडिशनल मेथड से अपने पशुओं को भी रखते थे। लेकिन अब हमने जिस बड़े स्तर पर इंडस्ट्रियल एनिमल एग्रीकल्चर शुरू किया है, जो करोड़ों जानवरों को हम उनका दूध निचोड़ के निकाल लेते हैं, जिनके बच्चों को हम भूखा मार देते हैं और उनकी चमड़ी उधेड़ कर हम बेच देते हैं, ये हमें नर्क की तरफ ले जा रहा है अगर हम वो माने तो। और एटलीस्ट वो हमें एक झूठों का देश बना रहा है, क्योंकि हम अपने आप से झूठ बोलते हैं।
Absolutely. Global superpower, making more money, industrial trade, international trade. It's like, where are the morals in all of this? That's what I don't understand.
It's a difficult truth. It's like an elephant in the room that we refuse to acknowledge. We feel that the lovely ads that we see on TV where cows are being kept very nicely and they're grazing in pastures, and lovely women are, this is like the glory of India that we have such great milk. Well, the milk in our country is so substandard anyway because we keep our animals so badly. We have seen cows, buffaloes kept in basements, stuffed on first floors, second floors, third floors of congested buildings where they come out of these hellholes only on the day of their slaughter, right? And we get convinced otherwise, from packets of milk products, of ghee or butter, where some great labeling, humane washed labeling is sort of displayed for the benefit of the consumer, and the consumers finds it convenient to accept it and not to critically think that this is not how it can be. Because the amount of ghee that we are consuming as a country cannot be produced from the number of cows that we have and the amount of milk that they produce. It has to necessarily come from the dead bodies of cows when the layer of fat is scraped out of their bodies in slaughterhouses and converted into tallow. That's the ghee that majority of the ghee is what we are consuming in our country. In fact, there is a recent case that's going on in the Delhi High Court where the Delhi High Court asked the central government and the state government to test milk samples in Delhi, and it was found that more than half the samples were either substandard or they were laced with aflatoxins which are carcinogens, and we are talking about the national capital. We're talking about Delhi. The people of Delhi are consuming milk that are laced with carcinogens, and we are happily giving it to our children, for God's sake, thinking that, this is some very healthy milk coming from some Mathura ji of Krishna ji and lovely cows grazing in pastures, and holy cows are happily giving away milk. No, we are snatching milk, brutalizing these animals, and sometimes even scraping the fat under their skin after their death to make ghee for our little halwas.
So dairy is very entrenched in the Indian culture, right?
We have a lust for dairy.
Yeah.
A very unhealthy lust.
Yeah, I mean, it's addictive. With the obsession with dairy in India, how do we systematically change this? And I say this because, I was thinking about this recently. You know how certain boards come along and these companies come to schools and they give free dairy to children and then educate children that dairy, बच्चों के लिए बहुत अच्छा है, आपका, protein increase होगा, फिर आपका study का retention better होगा, ये, stronger होगा, ये. Why is there not more investment from the government or private entities around education in schools in regards to plant-based options in India when it comes to plant-based milks? Millet milk हमारा ही इस country का दूध है, रागी milk इसी country का दूध है, ये नहीं है कि western ideas blah 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 यही का है. तो ये सब चीज़ें हम कैसे systematically, let's say individuals like me want to propose things to, whether it's school boards or governments or anything like this, about having larger systematic change to introduce more education around plant-based options, what can individuals do?
The industry will not let it happen. What we have in our country when it comes to milk, meat and eggs is a state of regulatory capture, where the regulated has the regulator in their pockets. There are cartels in milk, meat and egg industries that are so deeply corrupt, and the government does not, I'm sorry to say, dare go against them. So I'll give you an example. We're all worried about, India's hallmark is cattle on the road, right? Why should there be cattle on the road? Finally, if there is any industry, if they chuck their byproducts onto the streets, they would be held liable, right?
Of course.
And cattle on the road are discards from the dairy industry. They don't grow on the road. They're not making babies on the road. They're not like dogs that basically just live on the roads. They are only barren cows or male calves that are discarded, which are not commercially viable for the dairy, and they are chucked out onto the streets or temporarily driven away from their homes to feed on the garbage, so that they don't have to be stall fed and no money would be incurred in feeding them. But who in India, any state or central government, has challenged the dairy industry to basically ask them that, okay, you have a cooperative society. Every state has a cooperative society for dairies. They show huge amounts of profits every year. But how many gaushalas do they run? How many retirement homes for animals do they run where they keep all the retired cows and the male calves? Zero.
Yeah.
Zero. In any state, every state has dairy cooperatives. every state has these dairy owners chucking out cattle onto the streets. Basically, the polluter must pay, right?
Yeah.
But here the polluter shifts the burden of the pollution onto the citizens, and then it becomes the municipal corporation's problem, or some NGO's problem, or some Gaushala can pick it up, or you and I can start running after cows. But the cooperative society will not invest 1 rupee in running a Gaushala. Basically, if I run a paper mill and if I start dumping ash and pulp onto the streets, the government will come and sue me. I will have to be responsible and have to factor in the cost of reasonable disposal of the garbage myself.
So why isn't the government capable of suing the dairy industry for discarding cows onto the street?
Because of the model in which the dairy industry is run. Here we are trying to keep the prices of milk down. If tomorrow the cooperative societies have to share or take on the burden of the byproduct that they are churning out, the price of milk would go up. Right?
So
because
it's in the
that
government's
burden,
best interest to not...
That's right. It is in everybody's best interest, except for the people who are driving on the streets and the cattle themselves, who are meeting with accidents on the streets, or who are consuming plastic and dying of swollen bellies.
Oh my God. So बहुत लोग कहते हैं कि वो जानवर को बहुत love करते हैं. They have dogs. सड़क पे जो कुत्ते होते हैं उनको जाके खाना खिलाते हैं. फिर घर आके chicken खाते हैं रात को.
That's basically moral hypocrisy. This is, and I don't know how people can live with it.
Yeah.
अपने आप से झूठ बोलना, अपने आंखों पे खुद ही पर्दा डाल के रहना, या तो खा ले या तो बचा ले. दोनों काम इकट्ठे करना, एक स्पीसी को खाना दूसरे को बचाना, makes absolutely no sense. But शायद इसीलिए वो खुद में खुश नहीं रह पाते. I'm at peace because I have consistency in my lifestyle. And for the while that I was rescuing animals, rescuing dogs, and eating them too, there was a disturbance inside me.
Yeah.
Something was not settled. Things were not making sense. But since I have become completely vegan, I am at peace with myself because my thoughts, my actions are all aligned. And I would want more people to experience this calm. That, you know, what you're thinking is what you're doing, is what you're saying.
Wow, I love that. I love that. Okay, so most people think that animal welfare is about doing rescues of animals, but your work is around systematic change and reforms in the system. Can you please tell us a little bit about that?
So it did not always start with systemic change. I stumbled into it and learned it along the way. For the first 15 years of my work in animal welfare sector, I was actually earning my bread through other means because there was no option of having a career in animal welfare back then. So one could only be a volunteer, and therefore I was various things. I was teacher, I was a therapist, and I was a radio jockey, and I was working in a BPO or something else, or working in a software company. So I've been doing a lot of things to earn my bread and then quickly run back to my shelter every day where I used to volunteer. But it only when I felt helpless, when I felt that I couldn't empty the ocean one spoonful at a time, I had to take a bigger leap. And a larger impact could only happen by working with government, by understanding the law. And since then, we've transitioned into just a high impact initiative organization. And so that's been my journey. The first campaign that we ever picked up was animal sacrifice.
Really?
In Uttarakhand. And we did not stop till we stamped it out from the entire state.
So what have been some of your biggest wins?
Okay, the first one I would say is stopping animal sacrifice in Uttarakhand, because that was, I had to set my own house in order before I could venture out, do other things, to set up a model animal birth control program, also in Uttarakhand, to set up wildlife rescue centers, also in Uttarakhand, as well as then working with the central government to have pet shop rules, dog breeding rules, caged property animals rules, livestock market rules be promulgated under the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act. These rules are a direct consequence of our work with the judiciary, with the central government, as well as having a set of guidelines under the Environment Protection Act for dairies and for poultry farms. Also with our work with the National Green Tribunal and central government that led to these first-time legislations in the country. So I would say these are the biggest wins. Aside from this, I think we have made a mark by bringing in capacity building of law enforcement agencies into the mainstream. Like now, a lot of these sessions are held across the country. Earlier, they were unheard of. Training policemen in animal protection laws was like, why even waste time? But we worked with the Ministry of Home Affairs, with the Bureau of Police Research and Development. We worked with the Ministry of Law and Justice to get animal welfare be included in courses offered by national law universities.
Right.
Animal welfare be taught in state judicial academies and national judicial academy. So basically, just soaking animal welfare in everywhere.
With so much suffering that we see with animals, we see it everywhere, Instagram, in real life. बहुत helpless वाला feeling होता है. As an individual, हम क्या tangible कर सकते हैं to maximize our impact in helping animals?
बहुत आसान है. सबसे पहले तो हम खुद जानवरों को यूज करना छोड़ें. Because unless you change yourself, you will never be at peace with any of your actions, and you will continue to feel helpless. सबसे ज़्यादा power हमारे ऊपर ही है. So stop using leather, stop using silk, wool, stop eating animals in any way or form, stop using products that are tested on animals, stop using animals for transport. At least direct cruelty to hum na kare. After that, change the circle that you have around you and increase the circle of compassion, make more people aware, take up one little issue in a focused manner, get after it, persistently, do it over years and get somewhere. I understand that not everybody can do everything, but everybody can do something. And when you have done your day's worth of effort, you would be able to put your head on the pillow at night with a lot of ease. Like I do. I'm not able to relieve all the suffering of all the animals, but I know that I have filled the day with effort. And that makes me a lot more relieved than I would otherwise be.
I love that. So other than going vegan and reducing our reliance on animal products, what else can we do?
We can teach ourselves to help animals better. Like after I discovered that larger impact has to be made. I educated myself on law, on policies, on government systems, and then I started working on high impact campaigns. In the same way, we now teach people through a program called the Ahimsa Fellowship. We take them through an intensive 8-month program where we not only train them on understanding and interpreting the law, but also working with the various arms of the government to help enforce the law and to refine it where it needs refinement and to sort of build capacity where capacity needs to be built. So it's a very intense program that also leads to full-time careers at the end of it. And that's something that I encourage people to do when, if they feel that they need to work in this space full-time.
That's amazing. So hopefully people can just look up the Ahimsa Fellowship online and learn more.
ahimsafellowship.org.
Okay,
yes.
Fantastic. So, if you don't want to eat, don't tell others what to do. Yes, chicken momos में butter chicken में chicken ही जाएगा ना, कौन सा vegan product जाएगा उसमें. Everyone knows that things doesn't come from very good area, but what matters is बड़े restaurant में the chefs would have taken care of meat to make it more hygienic as compared to local street vendors. What?
You can wake up a person who's sleeping, but you can't wake up a person who's pretending to sleep. तो लोगों ने अपने आँख पे पट्टी बांधी हुई है, तो हम उनसे आँख खोलने को कैसे कह सकते हैं? ये एक लाश है जो सड़ रही है, जो एक लैंडफिल के बगल में है. लैंडफिल एक ऐसी जगह होती है जहाँ पूरे शहर का सारा कूड़ा आता है. वहाँ बायो एरोसॉल्स होते हैं हवा के अंदर, वहाँ के ज़मीन में लीचेट होता है, केमिकल्स होते हैं. वहाँ इतनी भीड़ और इतनी गंदगी में सड़ती हुई लाशें कितनी भी धो ली जाएं, साफ़ नहीं की जा सकती हैं. ये तो कोई भी नॉर्मल इंसान बता सकता है. उसको अगर कुछ लोग अपना फूड बताते हैं या खाना समझ के उसको इंजेस्ट करना चाहते हैं, तो वो अपनी सेहत, अपने परिवार, अपने बच्चों की सेहत के साथ सिर्फ खिलवाड़ कर रहे हैं. प्रॉबेबली उनके लिए कुछ देर का टेस्ट is sort of more important than long lasting health of themselves and their children.
Yeah. Okay, let me give you more gold. Ha, I love to eat fried chicken. You vegans are so dumb. Stop pushing your views onto us, we don't care.
Yeah, sure. They should not care about our views. Our views are our own. They should care about their own health. They should care about the planet that they're leaving for their children. And they should care about their own karma. Not about our views, really. The effort was to show reality to them. And if they want to turn their faces away and believe in some nonsense, well, that only is reflective of how clever they are about their food choices.
That's the thing. The vegans are just showing the reality of what's happening. What you do with that information, that is up to you. No one is sitting here saying कि
ये मत खाओ,
तुम ऐसे हो, तुमने ऐसा क्यों किया, वैसा क्यों, ऐसा कुछ नहीं कहा है किसी ने. Right? That's true. So, yeah, I mean, that's also, I think, a reflection of their own very subconscious defense mechanism.
That's right.
Okay, we'll reply to one more. The killing of poultry and fish is not illegal. Improper waste management is illegal. Why do vegans need to twist facts to prove their point? Why do they need to force their choice on everyone?
Well, that's a very, very silly understanding of legal and illegal. Of course, killing animals is not illegal in the country, and several groups of animals can be killed, but it is a highly regulated industry where the State Pollution Control Board and the Food Safety and Standards Authority have to provide licenses, which this place did not have.
Yeah.
It weren't views. It was actually the reality that was being shown, that this completely unhygienic place is a public health hazard, which is operating in violation of all the laws and all the pronouncements of judicial forums. And, it's for people to decide whether they want this in their city or not.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with whether chicken can be killed or not. Certainly, but then stunning is mandatory, veterinary checkup is mandatory to at least ensure that they're not suffering from avian influenza, because that, for instance, Madhya Pradesh has banned the sale of meat for 30 days because avian influenza is spreading like wildfire across species. So isn't it Delhi government's responsibility to ensure that more than 5 lakh birds that are coming to Ghazipur are not infecting our Delhi population? If people are not bothered about themselves, what can you say?
Yeah.
But then it's their choice.
अभी दूसरे दिन आप और हम गाजीपुर गए थे. We went to Asia's largest wet market, which was very hard to see. It was literally like a hell on earth experience. And what I learned in this is that, as you explained to me, that the killing of birds at the wet market is actually illegal. What I want to understand is, अगर कोई चीज़ illegal है, तो वो हो कैसे रहा है?
तो दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट ने जब हम दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट के सामने इस मैटर को लेके गए और हमने कहा कि लाखों चिड़िया यहाँ पे मारी जा रही हैं और इतनी गंदी तरीके से कितने ही लोग बीमार होते हैं, मरते हैं, बच्चों से वहाँ काम कराया जाता है, सब खून में लथपथ घूमते हैं, ये वायलेटिव है बहुत सारे लॉज का, तो ये नहीं होना चाहिए। दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट ने बिल्कुल अग्री किया और कहा कि गाज़ीपुर मुर्गा मंडी में कोई भी बर्ड्स को स्लॉटर नहीं कर सकता। यही हमारे मैटर में नेशनल ग्रीन ट्राइब्यूनल ने भी कहा और गवर्नमेंट ने माना कि नहीं कर सकते। और उसके बाद वहाँ पर जब हमने स्लॉटर होता हुआ देखा तो हमने कंटेम्प्ट पिटिशन लगाया कि यहाँ पे अभी भी हो रहा है। कोर्ट ने तब वहाँ पे एक सरकारी ऑफिसर को भेजा ये पता करने के लिए कि वहाँ पे कौन कर रहा है स्लॉटर, और उस ऑफिसर ने वापस आके बताया कि वहाँ पे तो कोई स्लॉटर नहीं हो रहा है। लाखों चिड़िया वहाँ पे रोज़ कटती हैं और वो इकलौती जगह है जहाँ पे इतनी बड़ी संख्या में चिड़िया कटती हैं। एवरी टाइम आई गो टू गाजीपुर समथिंग इन मी डाइज।
Yeah. I think for me, it kind of strengthened things as well. Like, it just made it really clear to me that we have to do everything we can to help these animals. They're stuck in a system that doesn't care about them.
I also feel sorry for the people working there.
Yeah.
वहाँ पे कितने सारे बच्चे थे, कितने लोग अंडर एज थे, बट हम उनकी भी केयर नहीं करते।
नहीं।
वहाँ पे जो लोग जिन हालतों में काम कर रहे थे उन्होंने शायद कभी कोई डिसेंट जिंदगी देखी ही नहीं है।
नहीं।
वो दिमागी रूप से पागल हो चुके हैं।
Correct.
क्योंकि वी सॉ कि वो वहाँ पे चिड़ियों को गला काट के मारेंगे तो बहुत टाइम लगेगा, वो सिर्फ उनको क्रश करते हैं, वो उनको पटक के मारते हैं, उसके बाद पैर में पॉलीथीन पहन के उनके ऊपर चलते हैं। ये लोग कितने डीपली पागल हो चुके हैं। क्या हम आज के डेट में 2025 में एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हैं कि हम पेड़ों पे नहीं रहते, हम गुफाओं में नहीं रहते, हम इंसान बन चुके हैं, हम अभी भी ऐसा कर रहे हैं? It's just shocking for people like you and me to learn it, but गवर्नमेंट को मालूम है। और I can't put my head around it sometimes.
Yeah. So what is the one question about animal welfare that people should ask but they don't ask?
I think we should ask ourselves that 100 years later, what would the future generations look back and think of us? We who brutalize animals, we confine animals in battery cages, we keep them in farrowing crates, we keep them tethered, we keep them deprived of oxygen in aquaculture ponds. Are our future generations going to be terribly ashamed of us the way we are ashamed of people who used to keep slaves and used to trade in slaves 100 years ago? I think where we are today is a shameful place to be in, and the sooner we get out of it, the sooner we educate our children to become more evolved and to be deserving of the planet that we live in, the better it is for us.
Absolutely. But Gauri, I feel like we're so far away from people reflecting and thinking like this. And I say this because I see thousands of comments from people online saying such mindless things that, God has made animals for us so we can do whatever we want with them. Plants are also living things, so it's no different to, why do you eat plants then? It's no different to eating meat. We're dealing with such moronic viciousness, just stupidity and viciousness, that I just feel like I just have such a bleak view of our species. I feel like we're screwed. That's my bottom line thinking.
I find it comforting sometimes to fall into hopelessness and sit in a corner, but I fight it every day, and I encourage everybody who listens to me to fight that hopelessness and get up every day and fight that battle as hard as we can, because lives depend on it. And even if you can't succeed today, you won't succeed tomorrow. Probably we won't get to our goal in this lifetime. it would be a life worth living if we continue fighting.
Yeah.
Despite.
Well, on that note, thank you so much, Gauri, for joining. It's been so amazing. We've learned so much talking to you today. And I feel very motivated to do as much as I can to help animals. And I hope that everyone listening to this is also motivated to help animals as best they can. So thank you so much for being an inspiration for so many.
Thank you for taking my voice to so many people. And thank you for having me, Amy.
Thank you.